Olá, eu sou a Carol Godoy e você está no BHB Foodcast. Seja bem-vindo ao universo de alimentos, bebidas e suplementos. Hoje o nosso episódio está para lá de especial. Temos aqui uma palestrante, uma convidada internacional, é a Dorte Eskesen. Ela é cientista da Hansen, lá na Dinamarca. E há mais de 10 anos ela se dedica ao estudo de probióticos. E é sobre isso que a gente vai falar hoje. Se você é dessa indústria de alimentos, bebidas ou suplementos, eu ficaria bem atenta. Por quê? Esse mercado tende a crescer muito. Segundo dados da Allied Marketing Research, a gente deve bater um mercado de 73,9 bilhões de dólares ano globalmente. E o Brasil é um dos países mais potencial de crescimento, deve crescer 11% ao ano, segundo essas previsões. Isso porque os consumidores já entenderam que para ter uma saúde equilibrada, ele precisa ter um intestino funcionando bem. Então, esse funcionamento intestinal já é entendido por 77% da população e 76% já tem uma busca por uma atitude mais saudável relacionada a isso. Vamos aproveitar esse momento, esse awareness, essa oportunidade para desenvolver cada vez mais produtos nesse sentido. Alguns clientes estão muito focados mesmo em funcionamento intestinal, o que já é um passo importante, mas a previsão e a tendência no futuro é que isso evolua para outros tipos de benefícios. A gente pode falar de imunidade, a gente pode falar de saúde mental, a gente pode falar de uma série de vantagens para o consumidor a partir de um intestino funcionando muito bem. Bom, convido vocês para essa aula da Dorte de 15 minutos. Ela está falando em inglês, então se você entende bem, pode continuar ouvindo só esse podcast e nas redes sociais. Mas se você quiser, eu te convido para ir no YouTube, porque lá esse vídeo, né, tem a apresentação, a aula que ela mostra e um vídeo legendado em português. Espero que você goste, depois você conta para mim o que você achou. Até daqui a pouco.
My name is Dorte Eskesen, and I'm Senior Scientific Manager at Hansen, based in Denmark, in Europe. I worked in Hansen for more than 15 years now, and all the time I have focused on probiotics, specifically looking into the science behind the documentation, how you can communicate, and this is also some of the topics that I will cover today. So I would also like to thank the organizers, of course, for inviting me to this event. This is a great chance to speak about probiotics, which I really look forward to share with you. In this presentation, I will speak on probiotics, and I will especially focus on the importance of choosing products that contains probiotic strains that are backed by science in order to support gut health. Basically, you can say it's what's inside that counts. What I will speak about is a little, of course, on what probiotics really are. I will also touch on the human microbiome, what it is and what we know about it. Then speak on the science behind some of the two most documented strains. And then at the end, what is a true probiotic product and what is it that you need to look out for to really identify such a product. If we take a brief look of the history of probiotics, fermented products in general have been around for ages and considered a healthy product, but it was around the beginning of last century that this guy Metnikov really suggested that specific lactic acid bacteria could have a health benefit. But then it took years before we really saw products coming into the market. And it is, I would say, the past 20 years that has really escalated, and for sure, even more so in the past 5 to 10 years, also driven by the explosion in microbiome research. If we look at the definition, which is set out by WHO and FAO, it defines a probiotic as live microorganisms that, when administered in adequate amounts, confer a health benefit on the host. But what does this mean? So if you translate this into something that we can relate to in terms of a product, it means that a true probiotic product should have a strain in there that is alive throughout its shelf life. The amount, the adequate amount, is really linked to the beneficial effect for which there is this clinical documentation. So really the science behind it. Typically, this amount would be around 10 to the 9th of these colony forming units, or 1 billion per day in a daily serving. So that could be, of course, small serving or bigger serving that you take daily, but the total amount around 10 to the 9th. The health benefits so far has been mainly related to supporting gastrointestinal health, but also immune function. These are the most studied areas, but of course we do see new health areas also coming around. If we do keep focus on gastrointestinal health, for sure, digestive wellness is a key trend in food and health. We can also see this is a highly relevant topic for nutritionists that really speak about how you can support your gut health in different ways in your diet and how you choose the right products. But we can also see that there's a strong motivation by consumers to feel better inside. They associate probiotics with digestive benefits, and they also start to see a strong link between gut microbiota and health. So what is gut microbiota? Well, if we look at the whole human microbiome universe, it is actually the total number of microbes in and on our body, including their genes. So it counts, of course, into high numbers of bacteria with a high number of different species, and most of them you will find in the gut. Therefore, it's not so surprising that we do see a lot of science in the gut, because we eat, we take probiotics, but we take food. It's all going down in the gut, where we have this enormous space, surface area of 30 to 40 square meters, where a lot of things can happen. It's also where we have a lot of the body's immune cells. So the reason why we also see science on probiotics that can support immune function. And now some of the emerging health areas is related to the gut-brain axis, because we have a huge amount of these neurons in the gut that communicates between the gut and the brain and vice versa. So where do we get this microbiome from? So when the child is born, the gut is more or less sterile. So the first bacteria that they gain is from the mother, depending on the birth, whether it's a vaginal birth or a C-section. And then after that, it really depends on the first feeding, whether it's breastfed or it's on formula feeding. That all determines sort of the first development in the colonization of the gut. We do prefer to see a very steep increase in bifidobacteria, as it seems to be connected to health later in life. But in general, we would say that around the age of 3, we have more or less a complete colonization of the bacteria. So we have our own bacteria signature that remains more or less stable throughout our life until we get old, where we see this changing again with some decreases, in particular those that we had achieved from the beginning. During our life, of course, we do face challenges. We go to hospital, we get sick, we take medicine, we take antibiotics, we work, we get stress, we exercise. All these different factors can impact our gut, where we then see changes in the microbiome and some indications that this could potentially impact different conditions in our body. So with all these insights that is emerging on the gut microbiome, it will be increasingly important also for probiotic development to really making these strong and targeted solutions, where we can even be better at aiming certain health areas, where we gain insights from the microbiome understanding, and vice versa, microbiome understanding also get insights from what can probiotics actually do. So this is really, really exciting for the future. Then I would like to speak, as mentioned at the beginning, to focus on some of the strains that has science behind it. These 2 strains are the 2 world's most documented probiotic strains in the world. Both of them have science that can contribute to the health of the gastrointestinal tract. So really speaking into this about digestive wellness. One of them is a bifidobacterium and the other one is a lactobacillus. If we look at the BB12 strain first, we have several studies that have shown that the intake of this BB12 strain can contribute to the health of the gastrointestinal tract. It has been researched across the whole adult age range, and all showing the same tendency that it can increase bowel movements, so really support a normal bowel function. And one of the studies, the first one mentioned here on the slide, I will just show here in a little bit more detail, because this is a study that we set up some years ago, about 10 years ago, the largest study ever in this area with probiotics, where we actually had set it up with 3 arms looking into the effect of a 1 billion dose per day versus a 10 billion dose per day versus a placebo. And the thinking behind it was that there was a lot of questions around, is more better? And we wanted to have an answer to that. So we included a great number of adults that had, of course, some issues with their gastrointestinal health, some discomfort, but also low defecation frequency, or you can say not being as regular in terms of visiting the bathroom as is considered convenient or good. And what we found was, first of all, I can say already that we did not see any difference between 1 and 10 billion CFU per day. So 1 billion was actually sufficient. And what we could also see was the odds or the chance for achieving an increase in these bowel movements by at least 1 day in 2 out of these 4 weeks where you consume a product with BB12 was actually increased by 55%. And the average increase, if you sort of even it out, was about half a day over the 4 weeks period. So really, really good results that you can achieve in a short period of consumption. For the LGG strain, which is, as I mentioned, it's the world's most documented probiotic strain, can also contribute to health of the gastrointestinal tract. And here I just present an overview of the studies that has been conducted supporting this area. Again, it's across children here and also adults in a similar manner can support to really dig into the gastrointestinal health to maintain a very good bowel function. So now the next question is how to identify a true probiotic product, because there are many products out there that claim that are a probiotic product, but they are not at all. So if we start looking at a dairy product like a yogurt, they are really good natural products that may contain probiotics, but not all do. So a yogurt is fermented with starter cultures, Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Streptococcus thermophilus. The role of starter cultures is, of course, to acidify, so to ferment the milk, add flavor and texture. But what important is to stress here that these specific cultures, these bacteria, have not been studied for their health effects. They are not identified at the strain level, but they are, of course, alive in the product. In contrast, a probiotic yogurt, of course, they would have the same starter cultures because you still need to ferment the milk to get another product in terms of flavor and texture. But a probiotic yogurt also have other specific bacteria included. It could be the BB12 that I mentioned, and it could also be the LGG or others, but really specific cultures where we have, with science, shown that they have benefits, so they deliver in terms of the definition of a probiotic, and they are also identified at strain level, and they are alive in the right amounts. Because what I also would like to stress here is identified at strain level means that when we do science, we look specifically at each and every strain, so we can't extrapolate science from one bacteria to another bacteria that is within the same species. We need to look at it very specific strain by strain, and that's also a major difference. Therefore, it is so important to look into specific strains that are included and if that specific strain actually has science behind it. So if you look at a label, at a product, there are certain things you can look for. First, you can look at the species name and the genus name. In contrast to a yogurt, you would mostly not see the names listed on the product. It would just say fermenting cultures, starter cultures. But for probiotic, you would typically see that the species and the genus name is mentioned. Then to look for specific strains, there are some products that use logos that makes them sort of really differentiate. It's a kind of a stamp of this is strains that certainly are backed by science, or an easy way to check, do these strains actually have the science? Then it's about the cell counts, which is also part of the definition. So does these products deliver on the serving? So the cell counts per serving. Some state the cell counts, others do not. And then you can communicate, in some cases, health benefits, and that really depends on local regulations, whether it's allowed or not. But in Brazil, health claims have been approved for BB12 strain and the LGG strain in supporting the gastrointestinal health tract. So here, everything are actually possible to see, is this really a true probiotic product? So with this, I would like to summarize that gut health is for sure a key trend, and consumers do associate probiotics with this area with digestive benefits. Then there is about this emerging understanding of microbiome and into our health will play a key role in the future. But here and now, we have strains like BB12 and LGG that have shown relevant clinical benefits within the gastrointestinal health, and you can get these strains in product with the science behind, and also products that contain the amount of live cells throughout the shelf life that really is backed by science, and also where you have the health claim. So with this, I would like to thank you for your attendance, and hope you would find this inspiring, and also that you have learned some more about probiotics. Thank you.